Good morning, and here we are going into our third week of June, and the time just seems to be flying by. As you might tell, my background is a little different. I am up in New York for a period of time, and will continue to do my Live with Tony's on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays as I can, and enjoy doing it. On Friday, I talked about the importance of believing that you can improve your memory and then wanting to take and learn the skills. But as a part of our memory and part of our mental fitness, I also have talked numerous times about the importance of social interaction and not being isolated and feeling alone or lonely and how that has an impact. And I just wanted to share with you an experience I had this Sunday practicing that which I teach, which is anyone can improve their memory and anyone can learn to improve and enhance their cognitive fitness and long-term mental health, given, first of all, to know what the things are that you want to do to help do that, which is what our 6 key factors of brain health are all about. And the other thing is actually getting out and practicing it. And so I want to talk about an experience that Evelyn and I had this Sunday, walking at a place along the Long Island Sound called Manor Park, Manor. It's an awesome park. It walks itself along the Sound, and it's got this border of these rocks. It's like, I guess, nature's left these big, huge boulders and rocks along the shoreline, and it's got this nice wall that you can sit on and watch the waves come in and or watch the tides change. Tides go in or out. And this Sunday, as we took a walk to the park, it's a good place for us to just kind of go out and veg out a little bit and get to what I call that meditative state where you just walk and you look at the waves, you listen to the sounds of them. You see people that are walking with their dogs or with their loved ones or with their kids and just having a very relaxing, pleasant time. It's one of those places I love to go to when I'm in New York, where you just kind of go to it and you just kind of get lost from the rest of the world. You get to see the boats and the sailboats and the motorboats and along the waters. You get to see people swimming in a section they have on a beach with the pools. And a little bit windy, so watching umbrellas. But I want to get to I could talk about it for hours because it's just such a awesome place to go and just kind of get into your own little dome and just kind of look at the challenges and problems or creative places in the world and just come out in just such a better place. So this week I practiced what I teach. There was a couple that were there as we were walking by, and they were standing out looking at what we were looking at, and we kind of both stopped in the same area. And we got into a conversation as the couple asked us if we've been here and a couple of tips that we could offer them about the park and about what's there and what you do and any special thoughts that we have about it. And so that opened up our conversation as they advised us that they had just moved from a part of New York City, and now we're up in the Westchester area, and obviously where do you live and where do we live, and so you start finding out they're just walking distance from our residence, and so it's like, wow. And then of course we got into, so what is it that you do? And one of them, the gentleman that we were there, he writes, he does writing for a magazine and a newspaper, well known on both counts. And his wife is a therapist with kids. So, of course, the therapist with kids, we talk about their own. Well, how many kids do you have? And we talked about their kids being teenagers. And here's what the point. They talk about their kids, and as all teenagers, we run into these bumps. And so I said to him, there's hope for kids because research continues to share with us and continues to advise us that in our teen years, we're undergoing major development of our brain and connecting the rational brain and the emotional brain to the point where in our teens we may act out emotionally before we stop to think about whether or not this is a smart thing to do rationally. And we see adults doing this if they do fender benders in New York City and Maybe there's a fender bender and somebody gets out and is angry and furious, and sometimes they have guns and shoot people, and other times they punch people, and now you wind up with a fender bender and somebody going to jail, which is probably not what you thought you were going to do when you woke up that morning. And so we talked about the importance of understanding that in teen years there's major brain development going, and people thought that, my goodness, your brains are developed, and by the time you're 11 or 12 years old, man, that's it, and you got it. And then the answer is no, that's not it, and that's not what you got. And so science continues to reveal the secrets of our development that goes all the way up through our early 20s. And so we had that conversation, and that brought us to, well, what does the husband do here? And okay, we now got what the wife does, which is fascinating, and I think imperative in today's world, especially with COVID and the isolation and the social lockdowns that the kids have had. And now we talk to the husband, and he's telling us about the writing that he does, and the writing he does for a significantly large newspaper as well as a very important news magazine in New York. And so it was just a wonderful conversation of sharing a little bit about what we do, and then I started talking about the Memory Championship and the people we bring in, and we tied it back to the kids, and then we got to talking about Bob Walsh, which is Evelyn's son, who's assistant coach at St. John's, which brought us back to their kids and what they'd like to get their kids to do, and how we'd like to get them to know some things and playing some sports, and they're both kids are sports people, and so it was just one awesome conversation. And then we got to talking about John and Bob Walsh, Evelyn's two boys, and where they went to high school and the benefits of that high school and how their son may apply for it. And, I mean, it was just a awesome conversation. And why do I bring this back to my Live with Tony audience? Well, I've talked so many times. I mean, we walked away feeling really good about these two people. We just had the pleasure of meeting them, just moved into the area that, my goodness, if there's any help that we can offer to these people, we were like all arms and all ready to help. And it took us into a different place of helping others, which is very rewarding and satisfying in terms of what I like to do, and what Evelyn appreciates doing is making a difference in people's lives. So the social interaction benefited us as well as we expect the people that we spoke with, and they got some tips and ideas, and we'll look forward to maybe meeting them again. The only thing we didn't do, which was probably sad thing, is exchange phone numbers, but that's mostly my part because I want to get back to Florida and spend most of my year in Florida, so I didn't want to start making social contacts with someone that I'll hopefully see maybe next Sunday, and then get back to Florida. But in any case, it demonstrated to me the feel-good and the importance for people to have this social interaction. And as I've said to you many times, I've never begun a conversation with someone where you got punched in the face or you got hit in the head, but that it opens up opportunities for a conversation that's mentally helpful to both parties, and the hard wiring that we're learning more and more, and the lessons we learn from talking to other people. And so as we walked away from that, it was just such an enlightening experience, and it wasn't really difficult to have the conversation. And it was like, wow, we just found two new wonderful best friends, and hopefully they found the same way about Evelyn and myself. But the feel good, the importance of feeling positive about having an encounter or an interpersonal relationship, just made me go back and think about what I talk about on my Live with Tony so often, which is the importance of having some social engagement and some interaction that takes you out of isolation and takes you out of loneliness and brings you into a place of joy and enthusiasm and energy. And not that I'm lonely and that I need to go out and do that for my own personal being, but just having to take a walk and having that one little icing on the cake add to the pleasure of our walk at Manor Park, to me, is just worth it. And meeting two terrific people in the course of doing it that were just a joy and a pleasure to speak with and have an adult conversation about the things that go on in life, just made it even that much better. And that's what I want. I wanted to just, again, I want to continue to reinforce to people in this day and age the pleasure and the joy and the importance of meeting people and having simple conversations that don't have to be intellectually, it's got to be like on the top of the moon, but just conversations about how you doing, and you moved from where, and what do you do for a living, and here's what we do, here's why we come here. And it's just simple. These are not, you don't have to get prep for these. These can be spontaneous and simple, and that's the point I want to stress in my life with Tony today, and that meeting people and having fun conversations that are just a joy and a pleasure for all the parties involved doesn't take a lot of hard work. And you just get that little comfort that people love people. People who love people are the happiest people in the world. And I think that's the message that I want to give to you. Have a great day, and we'll see you back here on Wednesday.